Welcome back to the Huddle on High Street. I think we're around episode 7 right now, and this is a big episode because a lot has happened since the last time I've came on here. And the biggest thing that I want to start with is the possibility at the time of this recording of landing possibly Caleb Downs, which is great prospect from Alabama. And this opportunity wouldn't even be possible if Nick Saban hadn't have surprisingly left Alabama. And, you've just seen a crazy amount of players start to hit the portal. There's no linemen we're targeting. Several defensive players, as I expected, have decided to leave. Makes sense. Saban, really solid, defensive guy. If you look at some of his best players, they've all come from the defensive side. He's just a really good defensive coach. So you look at a guy like Caleb Downs, who his second or third choice was to go to Ohio State. When during the recruiting process, Alabama did end up winning him over, and that was largely due to Nick Saban, obviously. And if you look at the skill set on this guy, uh, you know, freshman of the year, and you watch some of the highlights, and it's just great play. And he's a safety, but he's not. I don't really see the free safetyness in him. Although there's some plays that you'll see where has really good breaks on balls. What I'm seeing when I watch the guy is a lot more of a strong safety look. Which the strong safety is more of it's the linebacker or the physical guy of the secondary is what the strong safety is, meaning you have a lot of spy opportunities. You're looking to blow up screens. You're also still hovering around the area. You're protecting the boundaries, and he has done an incredible job. If you look at the TFLs that he's had, it's been really good. So huge. It would be a huge get for Ohio State. The guy, when you're looking at him play, you can tell, first round pick easily, which, isn't surprising at all coming from, where he was within the recruiting in the year he had. But Georgia, if you look at On3, they're usually pretty good with the recruiting. They have Georgia right now with a 53% chance to land him, and us with a 47% chance to land him. So it's not going to be easy to get him. Ryan Day and staff members went to his hometown in Georgia. That's another thing going against him. His hometown is in Georgia, but they did end up going into that area to have a conversation with him, see if they can maybe get him to come to Columbus. He's done similar things to Judkins, where he's followed guys like Will Howard, Emeka Ibuka, and Travion Henderson on social media. But as of right now, the consensus is that he is going to go to Georgia. But it makes sense. I mean, it's his hometown. Georgia's, in my opinion, going to be our only competition next year. It continues to look like a race between us and Georgia for who's going to be the best team next year. That's just what I'm seeing from just the way everything is shaped up in this offseason through the portal. And he is going to be a key piece to, what happens. But I don't think it's a backbreaker if we don't get him. By any sense of the imagination, our entire defense has come back. Denzel Burke is back. Lathan Ransom is back. Hancock is back. So we don't need him, but wow, it would be a big addition to this team. It would be absolutely huge. And I think the decision will be made probably tomorrow. Or during this day. He said that he wanted about 48 hours before he made the decision. So, keep an eye out, keep watching, keep refreshing your Twitter as we will be at the Huddle on High Street because, like I said, huge prospect, number 1 rated player in the portal right now, surpassing Judkins, and some of the others. But wow, what a job it would be. What an off. It would probably be one of the great off seasons in the history. Probably it would probably be the greatest off season in the history of college football if they were able to somehow secure Caleb Downs. But right now, we just got to play what is called the waiting game. And like I said, not a backbreaker if we don't get him. Would be huge if we did, though. And the worst part is, of course, the other team that we're going up against to get Caleb Downs happens to be Georgia, the only team that I think could realistically compete with us next season. So that's how that's shaken up. I did want to get into talking a little bit about the new AD that Ohio State has brought in. And, I think that there was a little bit of backlash on social media with this guy. And, I feel like that definitely needs to get shut down because I feel like Ross Bjork is exactly the guy that we need to bring in right now. I think they checked the boxes. I think they did a really good job bringing in Ross Bjork, who had a bit of a scandal at Ole Miss, and then, is known for the mistake in the Jimbo contract at Texas A&M, where obviously Jimbo had the big contract, and he offered him a guaranteed extension, and then it essentially led to him doing what was like close to $100 million buyout just to get him out. Which, what? A lot of pushback on that, but you got the money to do it and you need to make changes. Hey, he did something about it. So, doesn't really rub me the wrong way when you're paying to make a change when you clearly have the money. But one of the key things that Ross Bjork does at programs is he's not afraid to spend money and he's not afraid to make big decisions. So it's got the makings of a guy where if somehow this great team that Ryan Day has put together, if somehow next year they're not able to get the job done for whatever reason, they don't beat Michigan, they somehow miss out on the college football playoff, which I think is highly unlikely. But if they do, he's not going to hesitate to fire Ryan Day. He doesn't. This is an AD who is going to do what it takes. He's going to listen to the fan base, and our NIL is going to skyrocket at this point. If you think we're getting guys now, he will not hesitate. Ross Bjork's not going to hesitate to unload his checkbook, which is something that we have been waiting for here at Ohio State for a long time. Texas A&M 2022 brought in the number one recruiting class in the country. Why do you think that is? Players were paid unbelievably. That is why players were paid at a very high clip. That's how they got them to go to Texas A&M. Now, obviously, when they got there, you put a bunch of talent in a room with no leadership and no direction, no hardship, no direction. You're obviously not going to do well. The players are too good. Schemes are too good. The coaches are too good. You have to have some sort of structure. You got to be better than what the current state was there. That's why it didn't work. But heck, if you bring in that kind of class to Ohio State, which we usually do get, but then you got to start looking at portal guys, and you got to start looking at, there's a lot of stuff that you got to start looking at with all that. So I definitely do think this is overall, it's a slam dunk hire, in my opinion. Before I had done and put in the research, I was a little skeptical because of what I was hearing on social media from people. People on Texas A&M were saying you could have all this, but it's exactly the kind of guy that you would want in modern day college football. If this was like 10 years ago, I would probably get on here and say, he might be a bit too erratic, and maybe this could lead to problems and all that. But no, in modern day college football, you kidding me? Guy spends more money, not afraid to take risks. That's how you win national championships. You take risks. So I like the hire. I think that it's really well. And then the next news I wanted to get into, apparently, just rumors at the moment, but very confirmed rumors from very good sources that Bill O'Brien, former Houston Texans coach, former Patriots assistant when they were winning Super Bowls, former Penn State coach, former Alabama OC, he is expected to join Ryan Day and the staff at Ohio State to be the next offensive coordinator. And this is exactly what you want to do if you're Ohio State. Exactly what you want to do. If you look at what Bill O'Brien did in Alabama, they had an unbelievable offense at times. It was really good. They just put stuff together. He's good at being an OC. It's one of the things he does really well. I didn't even think he was that bad in Houston. A lot of people wanted him out in Houston. I mean, he got them to the postseason. They won some games. He did a pretty decent job. He's a decent scheme caller, and offensively, he just knows his way around football. This, like I said, this is another example of somebody, if you have to give over the plays, don't hire, especially in college football, somebody who is underqualified to be an OC. This guy is overqualified, vastly overqualified. So he should do a really good job here. He's only going to be here for like 1 or 2 years, because when they win the national championship next year, if so, or within the next 2 years, he's going to get some sort of head coaching job. But what a hire. And, this is what I thought. If Ryan Day was to give up the play calling, it would be to somebody with the, career resume that Bill O'Brien has. And I just think it's going to work great. I think it's what you had to do. The problem with Hartline, really good recruiter, really good wide receiver, head coach. That might be where the limit is for him. Not an OC, doesn't call his own plays. I could see Hartline being a head coach someday, just because the role of the head coach, usually like 90% of the head coaches, they do not call their own plays. They are there to, be a leader, motivate the team, decide what you're doing on fourth down, and call the calling of timeouts and all that. But it's really mainly leadership, bringing the guys together, being the vocal voice, and then obviously the big decisions, the fourth downs, when to burn the timeouts. But Ryan Day, he was just calling the plays, and his number 2 on offense, Brian Hartline, was not ready to be an OC clearly, and was just more of a recruiter, and knows a lot about wide receivers, doesn't really necessarily know much about offensive line, tight end, and quarterback and running back. So I think that this would be a huge hire, a very positive hire for Ohio State. And then one more thing that I did want to get into is we see the Caleb Downs situation happening. We see guys from, I know there's like a tackle, quite a few guys from Washington are leaving. And what has happened within the portal right now is there's been an extended 30-day period. An extended 30-day period in which players, since Nick Saban left and which the Washington head coach left, those teams, when your head coach leaves, those players have a 30-day window to enter the transfer portal and leave. But the problem with that for college football is, as they are losing this talent, they cannot bring anybody else in. So unless it was somebody from like Washington or Alabama, vice versa, you can't bring anybody in. So that's kind of a reason that is kind of unfair for college football, because you're Alabama and you're sitting around and you can't do anything about losing these guys. So this might be the big thing that doesn't destroy the transfer portal, but I think this is a rule that is definitely going to be is going to change the landscape of it, because I'm pretty sure there's a really big window for the transfer portal. What they need to do is needs to happen is the moment the national championship game ends, that's when the transfer portal should start, and it should go for about a month. and then you should cut it off. That's what you should do, in my opinion, because you have situations where like the Malik Murphy guy from Texas, they made the playoffs and he's still transferring. People are transferring before bowl games and all this. Like it's a very weird situation. So obviously, don't get rid of the transfer portal. I just think you need to put some regulations on it a little bit and make it a bit smoother. But that's all we got. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the Huddle on High Street, and we will be back for the next episode, hopefully with news on where Caleb Downs ends up.